let's talk about this. The Celebration Bowl.
Yes.
North Carolina Central went to ATLA, NTAGA, and kicked some A. You know what I'm trying to say.
Double dollar signs.
They went against the undefeated Jackson State Tigers. Literally across the nation, everybody was just waiting to crown Jackson State the Celebration Bowl champions, Black College National champions. It was like, hey, they're going to have a perfect undefeated season. Deion Sanders going to go 13-0 before he leaves and goes to take his job over at Colorado. Everything's going to be good. We're just going to watch Shedeur Sanders finally do his thing on the national stage, which he did do his thing. He had a pretty good game. But North Carolina Central had something to say about that. They spoiled the party and beat them 41-34 in overtime. And honestly, they really shouldn't have even let them get to overtime. Like, that was just a lapse defensively for NC Central to even let the game even get to overtime. Because, from the very beginning, from the opening kickoff, they kicked, Jackson State in the teeth, and they didn't let up whatsoever. Really good game by Trey Oliver and his kids.
Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed. They jumped on them early, did NC Central, and it was back and forth. There was moments where they had trailed a little bit, and it was a back and forth game, and it literally came down to the final play in regulation, as well as obviously the final play in overtime. I'll admit, Chris, I will say, where Deion made his mistake?
What do you have
where
to say?
Deion, I think, made a mistake.
What is that?
At the end of regulation, when they got the touchdown, they were down 1. You have the ball. You can win the game with one play. You can win the game. The ball is in your hands. You can win the game. I have been on the bandwagon of, look, you can win the game on this play. Go for it. Don't kick the PAT and go into overtime, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen in overtime. Didn't pay off. I've always been in the mindset, if you have the chance to win the game on that one play, go for it. I thought he should have gone for 2 there at the end of regulation. He didn't. It's fine. Whatever. But nevertheless, congrats to Trey Oliver and those guys. I'm on team go for it. For example, like when Brian Kelly did it against Alabama for LSU earlier this year, in overtime. Because here's the thing. Deion would have been faced with the same situation. Because remember, on 3rd down, tight end for Jackson State, dropped the ball. Dropped the ball in the end zone. You still would have been faced the same situation. Oh, do I kick an extra point to force a second overtime, or can I win the game right now? I'm team go win the game.
Okay. I don't think the game would have come down to that one play. I mean, yeah, he could have done that. And maybe that's what would have happened. But at the same time.
But Jackson State had a chance to win the game at the very end of regulation.
At the same time, NC Central controlled that line of scrimmage.
Sure.
They ran the ball. I mean, oh my God, they racked up almost 300 yards on the ground on Jackson State and had the ball for 38 of the 60 minutes. So I don't know if it's fair. I mean, you can't say that that's where Deion went wrong, because the rest of it was exposed that they didn't really have a running game. They couldn't run it on NC Central.
True.
And honestly, if it really wasn't for the fact that NC Central's DBs had a pretty hard time outside of Khalil Baker. Khalil Baker made plays, but outside of him, their DBs didn't really make a lot of plays. That's what kept Jackson State in it, because Shedeur Sanders could air it out, and he had receivers. Travis Hunter, by the way, my God, my man was playing both ways. He was playing DB, and he was going on the other side and playing offense and catching touchdowns.
Yeah.
Just an amazing talent. And honestly, if it weren't for those two guys, Jackson State would have gotten blown out of the water. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter stopped them from getting blown out of the water.
Travis Hunter showed why he was the #1 recruit in the country. He was committed to Florida State.
Yes.
He was committed to Florida State as the #1 recruit in the country. Deion flipped him over to Jackson State. Now he's in the transfer portal, probably going to Colorado.
But that isn't guaranteed, though, because, who knows? Colorado's still building their program right now because of Deion Sanders. So they may not have the money available. There's other places that has the money available. So Travis Hunter could get a nice 7-figure deal to go elsewhere. But here's something else that I want to bring up that now Deion Sanders is going to have to take a look at. This is his 2nd year in a row losing in the Celebration Bowl.
Yeah.
And this is
probably – you should have gone for it, Chris. I'm telling you. Should have gone for 2.
Probably one of the worst losses for him, because he was 12-0. And so now when you get to Colorado, are you going to be the team that's going to go through the regular season, win all these, games, and then when it comes down to the big moments, the big game, are you going to choke at the end? Are you going to be able to win the big one? You only have a sample size of 2 games.
Yeah.
2 Celebration Bowls, but that does show you something, though. What's going to happen with that? So that's something I'll be looking out for when it comes down to Deion Sanders when he gets to Colorado. Are they going to be able to win the big game? And nothing is bigger than their first game of the season when they play against Matt Rule and the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Yes. At the end of the day, it's a big game for both guys. Look, I've seen that floating around. I have. I'm sorry, how many coaches have gone to the Celebration Bowl? Not many, right? How many coaches actually make it to conference championship games? Very, very few. Getting there is an accomplishment.
It is.
Getting there is an accomplishment.
I'm not taking anything away from it.
Oh, yeah. A lot. But I've seen that, Deion's proven he can't win the big game. I've seen that.
But you also don't want to be the Buffalo Bills, though, of the early 1990s.
True.
Because, you can make it there. Yeah, great. Good job, Bills. You made it there 4 times.
Yeah.
But you lost 4 times, and nobody remembers your team.
Oh, no. We all remember their team.
I mean, you remember the team, but as far as one of the greats, when you look back at the 90s and say the great teams of the 90s, there's a reason why you pick other teams before the Bills, because the Bills didn't win.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. Look, Bill Belichick has lost multiple times in the Super Bowl as a head coach, right? Okay?
But he's won multiple times.
Yeah, but he has. But here's the thing. You have to still get there. And look, he's still early as a coach. This is only the 3rd season Deion Sanders has ever been a head coach in college football. The fact that he's gotten to a championship game twice. There are people who've coached. How many times has Dave Dorn at NC State been to an ACC championship game? He's been there for 10 years.
And I will say this, though.
0.
I will say this. You can honestly just throw out the first year because that was the COVID year and they played in the spring.
Exactly.
So, take that out and you can really just count 2. And I'm not calling him a bad coach at all.
No,
I'm just saying that now that he has some stuff to really look at when it comes down to game planning. And like with Matt Rule in the NFL, when he got across the field from real NFL head coaches, he saw really quick that the game planning is a little bit different. Deion Sanders can be really good at motivating and getting some of the best recruits and putting together some of the greatest plans and doing a really good job during the regular season. But when it comes down for those tight games, there's going to need to be some adjustments he's going to have to make. Matt Rule found that out in the NFL. Mm-hmm. He's going to find that out when he gets to the Pac-12. He's going to be across the field from Lincoln Riley at some point. What are you going to do in that really big game that's going to be tight down the wire? And, hey, it's growing pains. But I think Deion Sanders will get there. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. He's a good coach. I think he'll get there.
Go for 2 at the end of regulation. Go win the game. There's your coaching adjustment.
Thank you guys for watching Culture State. We really appreciate that. I say take the points, go for the sure thing, and go win it in overtime, which you had a chance to do.